Brazici Pazalsta Photo Bija. Welcome to another episode of WarThunder, the clickbaitiest clickbait in all of clickbaiting, because we're here to clickbait and get some free shit from Gaijin for doing absolutely nothing. And by absolutely nothing, I mean I'm going to talk about the Flanker, and our clickbait title for the day is going to be Flanker to Flunker, because of any of the flight models I've ever experienced within WarThunder, this is the one that I have the most complex feelings about, because it is bad. It's not good. But in being bad, in the way that it is bad, it is almost good, and it has completely, absolutely mind-fucked me for the last, month and a half of the update. I have done a lot of experimentation in this plane, and depending on who you face, depending on the rule set that you have in your dogfight, depending on what the R73 feels like doing for the day, it's good-ish. And there are some limitations with this plane, and the thing is, within the community discourse, usually the way that it works is that people that think that this thing is fucking absolutely ass trash terrible are wrong, because they haven't flown it to its potential and haven't even begun to reach the potential. At the same time, people that say that it's great have also probably never fought against people flying the other plane close to its potential. And it means that this plane doesn't live up to what you would think the real-life reputation is, because the Flanker is a plane that has a mythos. It has an origin myth that people believe in, and capabilities that people believe in, largely probably in part due to marketing as opposed to actual physical capabilities. And the way I characterize the Flanker mythos is, as a plane that comes in, it has a very high initial turn rate with pretty okay sustained turn rates, very high angle of attack ability, and then extremely good low speed handling. And it has this thing called super maneuverability, which is, it's maneuverability, but it's super, and obviously affixing super in front of maneuverability means that it's better. In reality, what super maneuverability means is it can look really, really cool in air shows. That's what it can do. A lot of the maneuvers that are possible with super maneuverability they're post-stall maneuvers, and it means that you can control the plane while it's falling out of the sky. This is useful in some cases. It is not a panacea. It is not a golden gun, per se, to put it in Nintendo 64 007 terms. And within WarThunder, it means that overall, this plane is very large, and it still kind of handles like it's very large. And I think the best way to characterize the Flanker is, yes, it does come in. It does have a really good initial turn, but the cost of that initial turn is so penalizing that you lose a large part of your speed that you're never able to recover from. It means that once you get into a low energy state with this thing, everything else just kind of runs circles around you. It is a rather frustrating dilemma. At the same time, your low speed handling is not nearly as good as you think it would be, because once you run out of energy, you can't point the nose up. The ability to not recover energy is rather bad. Yes, the super maneuverability aspect does exist. This thing does have the ability to stand on its rudder and spin within its own circle in a way that's rather annoying to fight against. It also has the ability at medium speeds to really kind of just flip itself over. But once you get below those medium speeds, once you get below, say 300 kph, once you're into ultra low speed territory, and the other guy decides to go up, you're kind of helpless. And it means that a lot of the way that you fight with this plane, a lot of the way that I win with this plane, really deals with initial position. And it also deals with getting the R73 to track through people's flares and letting the R73 bridge the gap for me. Usually what I try to do is I will go out of plane and try to get slightly above the guy and kind of hope the R73 does the rest of the work for me, because I need the energy. I cannot recover it. And then the super maneuverability stuff, the switching to manual control stuff, that's really only useful when the guy is ultra close, when you guys are in the same kind of scissoring fight, And even then, planes like the F-15, planes like the Mirage 2000, planes like the F-16, when you turn on manual controls, end up doing basically 97% of what you can do. Your one-turn AOA super maneuverability Cobra thing is more or less a gimmick to get the R-73 to track. Because as much as I hate it, energy maneuverability theory is a son of a bitch, especially within WarThunder. And to kind of prove the point, I'm going to be showing old Gripen flight model versus F-16A. One of the things to notice here is we're both going in roughly the same speed. I'm actually slightly slower than Femboy here, and we're going to do more or less the same opening and the same initial turn. And by the second merge here, we're going to be in roughly the same position. But the thing to look at is how much extra speed I have over him. Look at how much energy it cost him to get to his position. He's at 331 kph. I'm sitting at 551. That is a, roughly 200 kph difference. That means that between those speeds, to getting to my minimal turn speed and him getting to minimal turn speed, I have a lot more energy to burn, and I have a lot more turn rate because my airframe performs very similar to his at all of the speed ranges, but the only kind of discernible difference is the energy efficiency. And the way the Gripen used to be modeled, and the way that it is currently modeled kind of at the same extent, is the Gripen is just more efficient. If it comes in with more energy, it is going to be able to generate more turning ability out of the energy that it has. And why am I talking about Gripen? Well, number one, I have this footage like in the bank, and this is like a really easy example. But the Su-27 is like the Nega Gripen. It loses energy in a turn, and it means that things like this, the Cobra, the thing that everyone's like, ah, yes, the Cobra, it's cool, it looks cool in an air show. You can do this in manual controls. This is not actually useful for hardly fucking anything. It is a gimmick. It is pointless. The only other gimmick that the Su-27 has going for it is the HMD R-73. And to be fair, the HMD R-73 is an incredibly strong gimmick. Like, this thing is actually really fucking amazing. I love this thing. This is like the only thing that actually redeems the flight model of this thing. Because if this thing had like R-60s or R-60s with like IRCCM, it'd be hot fucking garbage. But because of IRCCM missiles, because of the way that you can kind of shape the fight with the threat of the HMD, you can usually make this thing work. I have had really good results with the Su-27, unfortunately. At the same time, once someone learns how to fly around the HMD aspect of the plane and the lack of any kind of energy retention, it becomes relatively easy. And there's kind of like two routes to do this. One route is you go very, very aggressive and get positioned really early on, and once this thing is forced on the defensive, it's not really able to get out of it. This thing is really fucking terrible in any kind of defensive fight. The only exception might be if you trim turn at 1,000 kilometers per hour and the other guy just like shits his energy away. But even then, practicing against other people, it is really, really difficult. It is really, really obnoxious and annoying. Like right here, I'm against an F-15. This guy's like actually pretty good. He's a DCS player, and like you would think that I might be able to pull in here, but I can't. I don't have the energy for it. And right there at low speed, the F-15 has the potential to just slam the shit out of you. When it comes down to a guns-only fight at similar fuel loads, this thing actually kind of shits the bed against anyone that's not completely clueless. It is not like the Mirage 2000, because I have also flown a good bit of Mirage 2000. The fact that the Mirage 2000 can recover energy a lot quicker than this, and then convert that energy back into pointing its nose at you, is a really, really annoying tactic to fly around. This thing does not recover energy. This thing does not point its nose around. It can point its nose around one time, maybe two. As long as the other guy is below you, you kind of have something to work at. If the guy overshoots, you get a counterattack, and maybe you get it. But if he flies around it like this guy did, you're just kind of fucked. And that's what makes it frustrating, because it's not consistent. The way that this plane handles feels like it has a lot of potential, and I think that it does for most people. I think it is underestimated by most people that are frustrated with it. At the same time, in my search for the quote-unquote esoteric Jesus line of super maneuverability theory, or whatever you want to call it, I have found that this plane is rather lacking. It is rather frustrating to play against people that are not outright bad. It is frustrating to play against other people that have experience in this thing and understand the limitations, because with something like the F-15, he will absolutely punish you as long as he's able to successfully fly around the fact that you have R-73s. Now, is that a hard lift for the F-15? I think that it actually is. It is really easy to forget that the R-73 exists and to do the whole quote-unquote jamming my whiz in WarThunder, because within WarThunder, unlike DCS, the weapon employment zone kind of decreases with speed. The R-73 does a lot of really weird shit where you can be going 2 kilometers per hour and the shit will just spin the fuck out, or you can be doing 2 kilometers per hour and the thing will just pull in, do a 180-degree turn, and kill the other guy. No, it's not literally that. Don't go through the replays and like go, oh, did you actually get a 180-degree turn? No, this is a 179.8-degree turn. You were wrong. Like, no, I'm not saying that's specifically the answer. I'm saying that the R-73, at least in the close-in fight, more often than not is really good, but sometimes is also not. This is a good example of the guy doing kind of like the thing that's really hard to counter, where he gets positioned really early on. Like, I'm trying to conserve a little bit of energy because I don't have it to burn. But because he has position here, I am kind of totally royally, like, feels like I'm butt fucked. And as he goes up here, I'm going to try to go in. I'm going to try to go aggressive. Maybe it's not aggressive enough. Maybe I'm not doing quite the right thing. We get the R-73. We're trying to lead him. We're going to try to lead the R-73. It's going to come around, and it hits the water. And although we gained a lot of position here, we don't have the speed, and pulling into him doesn't actually generate us any positional advantage. And he comes in here, and he just pulls in, and we don't even have the energy to get the head on. And that is the limitation of the plane, is you don't have any energy retention. You don't have anything you can do with it. Burning your energy up front too much is risky. Trying to conserve energy is also very risky, and you have to play it one of two ways. If the other guy plays rate, if the other guy plays energy from the start, he usually will give you an R-73 shot that is really difficult to dodge. But if he understands how to play energy and not give you the R-73 shot, you are just kind of in the cope zone. Now, is this actually realistic? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think anyone can articulate knowing, because WarThunder exists within kind of its own reality. The amount of flight parameters that we have access to within WarThunder versus real life just doesn't exist. Like, the 14G F-104 is not real. The F-104 never pulled 14Gs in real life, especially at like Mach 1.2, but it can do that in game, and it means that when you're trying to model realism within WarThunder, it is rather complex, just because of the fact that flight models and the parameters of the game just don't exist within the real world. At the same time, WarThunder has like a really weird thing of they have modeled Oswald efficiency, and Oswald efficiency is a number that kind of basically states like how well an energy fighter uses the energy that it energies with the energy. And the Oswald efficiency number of this thing through the dev server versus the initial release to the most recent change is kind of all over the place. Like, the Oswald efficiency went from being the low end of 0.61 without flaps deployed to 0.55. This was the initial one that was on DevServe. And then it got changed to 0.44, 2.44. They just made the flaps out and flaps in setting automatic and kept it the same. And then they buffed it to 0.52. At the same time, they changed some of the parameters where I think all of the planes more or less hit kind of the same data points as far as the rate charts go. Like, if you look at the turn rate of the Su-27 versus its chart in the flight manual, it's like pretty accurate. With that being said, there are glaring differences in the way that you get there, because a plane's ability to convert the speed that it has into turning capability is incredibly important into determining the outcome of a dogfight. An Su-27 that was better at retaining energy would also be better at converting the speed that it has into turning capability. It means that a very minute adjustment in the way that this plane flies could make a substantial difference in the way that it matches up against everything else. With that being said, is the Su-27 flight model accurate? And the answer is I don't know, and I don't think anyone is capable of knowing, because trying to square the circle of real life versus the WarThunder cinematic universe is incredibly difficult. There is a wide range of possibilities. Maybe we all fell victim to 1990s marketing and we saw super maneuverability and we just assumed that it was good. And in reality, when it comes to not super maneuverability, when it comes to conventional maneuverability, this thing is just kind of mediocre, and we just weren't reading the charts correctly. The other possibility is that this plane is underperforming. It has been nerfed by Gaijin to balance the fact that it has R-73s. Maybe they're using Oswald efficiency as a balancing mechanic. That could also be a thing. The other possibility is that maybe this thing is accurate to real life and everything else is inaccurate to real life, and that creates a situation that is incongruous to the player base. In actuality, the thing that I think that we're faced with is that it is a combination of all 3 or 4 different factors. I think that the fact that the F-16A and the F-16C can pull like above 40 degrees AOA, that is a definite overperformance metric. At the same time, I don't know that that is the distinguishing factor in why this plane is bad. Like, in reality, the way that this plane is bad is that it's the size of a B-25 bomber. And it handles really good for a plane the size of a B-25 bomber. And maybe a lot of us were gullible in the 1990s and believed the marketing lingo of super maneuverability. We played Ace Combat 4 and saw the old dude do a Cobra in front of us and just assumed the Sukhoi was the GOAT, and maybe we really didn't think about it.